Even as multiple sources tell CNN tonight that the U.S. is preparing another $800 million in weapons for the Ukrainian military, the number that may matter more to Vladimir Putin is $38 billion. The EU has spent at least that much on Russian energy just since the war began. My next guest knows the impact the money will have on the mind of the Russian leader. Andrei is Putin's former chief economic advisor. Andrei, good to have you on tonight.
Good evening. Nice to be with you.
You worked with Vladimir Putin at a time back in the 2000s when he seemed to be interested in moving closer to the West. What have you seen changed in him since then that has led to where we are right now?
The most serious evolution, or maybe better to say devolution of his attitude has happened between year 2003 and year 2007, when he has changed his mind from pretty pro-Western political leader, especially for the Russian situation, to very open anti-Western leader. That happened in this period of time. We can discuss what exact factors did contribute to this change of mind. I would say probably one of these was Iraq war, revolutions in Georgia and Ukraine, and also exposition to new ideas that he never heard before, but we need to say some Americans told him these wrong ideas that he took as a weapon and started to use from year 2007.
What ideas exactly?
The idea of against NATO, against membership of Georgia and Ukraine in NATO, the idea is to bring NATO back to 1997 division line in Europe, an idea of superpowers that are having spheres of privileged interests. In the beginning of year 2000, Putin did not have such ideas, but he has acquired those ideas around year 2005 to year 2007.
Well, we're seeing those ideas in action now on the ground in Ukraine with ruthless effects. What would make a difference for him? What would actually stop him? He's been under sanction for years. Is there one sanction that would make a difference?
In this particular situation, I would propose something that I would call a smart embargo on Russian energy. What do we have right now? We have three serious problems at the same time. First of all, Putin does receive about $1 billion per day as a result of export of Russian gas and oil. That is money that is financing Putin's war machine. Second, this Putin's war machine is making a lot of damage. It made enormous damage to Ukraine, which is measured by hundreds of billions of dollars on the Ukrainian territory. And Ukraine does need money to restore and repair all these damages. And third, we need to give some time to Europe to adjust to a new situation where Europe would be able to avoid import and consumption of Russian energy. What would be the golden instrument to solve this puzzle? The idea is to introduce the so-called smart embargo. What does it mean? It means introduction of the escrow accounts for which all proceeds from Russian oil and gas will be accumulated, but will not be given back to Putin. This money can be used until the end of the war, until withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine, for financing reparation, restoration, rehabilitation of Ukraine. And it gives time for Europe to adjust to a new situation without Russian energy. We can think that if some portion of this money, let's say 50%, will be going to Ukraine, it will be substantial support for Ukrainian efforts to resist aggression and to normalize life in Ukrainian cities and villages.
There's been a lot of speculation in the West as to whether Putin can survive this at home, set aside the Russian public, but just inside the Kremlin. You worked for Putin. Is there any potential for someone challenging his leadership, the military, someone else? Is that realistic?
I think we need to come to a very clear idea that with all problems with Putin personally, the most serious problem is with the Putin's political regime. And that is why we need to absolutely serious that with such a political regime, with Putin or without Putin, Russia will remain threat to international peace and security. So that is why we need to think about not only live with Russia without Putin, but without Putin's political regime, no matter how long and how difficult it will be. But that should be a goal for international community. World cannot live in peace and security if we have such an aggressor who's attacking neighboring countries, and not only neighboring countries, killing hundreds of thousands of people in Chechnya, in Georgia, in Ukraine, in Syria, in Africa, around the world.
Yeah, we're witnessing it every day. Andrei Illarionov, thanks so much for giving us your insight.
Thank you.